Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Joining you this weekend, this Saturday, on a weekend of Premier League action ahead of Arsenal's game against Brighton, which is tomorrow, of course, which we're talking about the fallout to more on Monday. But there's plenty of Premier League news and transfer news as well to talk about here. And we will be doing that, of course, shortly with you guys in the chat box. Speaking of which, good morning to those of you that have joined us. Temi, good morning to you. To Stevie, to NSW, to Angela, to Old Dave, to Peter, Lars, we've got Ray, we've got Martin, we've got Paul, Jorgen, Amira, Stephen, we've got Matt, Pam, Mark, Odirile, we've got AB. Thank you guys and girls for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. Thank you for that. If indeed you would like to help us out by dropping a like on the video, it'd be very much appreciated. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for those that have left us kind words and reviews. I tell you what, though, I was like, I'm going to hop over to iTunes, to see if we got any nice reviews in the last few weeks or so. And to be fair, we got some nice reviews. We also got a not so nice review, which I'm going to need your help with, to be honest, because it's just not on. Here we go. Look at this one. Tom seems like a very genuine, kind, and thoughtful person. Pleasure to listen to. The next one. Presenter lectures to the audience so much I switched off. Hey, it's me. You can't please everyone. If you would like to leave a kind review on the platform, then please do. Just head over to iTunes if you listen over there, and it would be really helpful. Just to drown out those guys. Come on. I know I'm not gonna please everyone, especially people that don't really, like me talking about women's football at times. I mean, to be fair, do you want those people? Probably not. But yeah, it's certainly worth it. So thank you to those that continue to show the support to the channel. It means a lot. Peter, good morning to you. Thank you for becoming a member and as well becoming a member as well. You are very, very kindly welcomed back. Or for the first time into the TGT member family. Let's jump into today's stories, shall we? Spurs won in the Premier League, beating a very disappointing Nottingham Forest side as Bissouma was sent off. Of course, it is a big blow, I think, to Spurs. They'll take the 3 points without a shadow of a doubt, and Forest are looking very much incredibly disappointing. But Spurs have now got 3 difficult games that they will not have. They will not have Bissouma for. Spurs play Everton, they play Brighton away, and they play Bournemouth. 3 teams that are all in decent form at the moment. They will be without their starting defensive midfielder. So let's see how they get on come the end of those run of fixtures. The win does move them 6 points clear of Manchester United ahead of their game this week, and in the table they still remain in 5th, however very much away from Arsenal still. 3 points behind us, 4 points behind Liverpool. We of course still need to play our game this weekend, which we will do tomorrow. Speaking of which, the Premier League action this weekend, we got Bournemouth against Luton, Chelsea against Sheffield United, Manchester City against Crystal Palace, Newcastle against Fulham. All those games are at 3 o'clock today. The later kickoff today is a very interesting game down at the bottom of the table, Burnley against Everton. And then tomorrow, of course, you've got ourselves against Brighton, Brentford against Aston Villa, West Ham against Wolves, all 2 o'clock kickoffs. And then you've got in the afternoon at 4:30, you got Liverpool against Manchester United. Very, very interesting indeed. So we're looking forward to hopefully Man United doing us a bit of a favour. Whether or not they do remains to be seen, and I'm very, very much highly doubtful that they will do. Moving into the transfer stories, Arsenal are happy with Patino's progress. However, there has been links with Juventus over the course of the last few months or so while he's been doing very well at Swansea. However, Fabrizio Romano has questioned these links and said that he's personally heard nothing on that side of things regarding any links to Juve. But Arsenal are indeed happy with the progress that he's made. And we talked in the summer about the fact that he was at the time seeking something of a move away from the club on a permanent basis, because the timing of his potential Arsenal future just was not aligning with the moves that Arsenal are making in the market for the likes of Declan Rice, etc. But indeed, it could look like we see Charlie Patino. I don't know if we make a new decision on him, but what we certainly will do is we certainly will see us, I think, decide whether or not he will decide whether or not there is a pathway into the midfield with still the likes of Rice there. But with Partey, Jorginho, El Neni, all maybe moving on in the coming months or so, maybe there will be a greater pathway and a greater opportunity for Patino. We've moved also for Victor Osimhen, apparently. We've made contact with Victor Osimhen's people. That is according to Calcio Napoli, who also claim that a new deal for the Nigerian striker is progressing and closing, but that new deal, of course, will include a release clause, which would help facilitate any potential move to a big club. And perhaps it is that is the openness of Osimhen to sign a deal so that Napoli are protected in terms of the value that they could earn off any potential transfer. But also Victor Osimhen being contacted by Arsenal, if indeed this information is true, which I can't say I've heard anything myself, gives us an indication about where Arsenal's head's at in the business they would like to do. I'd be very surprised if Arsenal move for a striker in January, as I have said, but maybe in the summer, Osimhen continues to be a player that is linked to Arsenal, and maybe he's a striker that Arsenal would end up going for. We would have to wait and see, because we have no way of knowing what's going to happen until that point. Now, Mikel Arteta, of course, touched upon a lot of stuff, including the FA charge, team news, and other things to do with the weekend's game in his press conference. And of course, we're going to talk about that and the quotes from that now. We'll start with the team news. He said Martinelli is feeling good. We have no other news apart from Mo. Mo had to be subbed off against PSV because he felt something in his hamstring. We did a scan and it doesn't look too serious. So he's going to be with us, I think, very soon, which is good news as well. So El-Nenny's injury, which you do, to be honest, very much I guess, worry about, don't you? Because he's of an age and has had an injury record that sparks a little bit of concern whenever you see him go down injured, that it could be for a longer period of time, but it seems to be that it won't be necessarily for a longer period of time. He provides us with depth. I know he's not anywhere close to our starting options at the moment, but I don't think that we're in any way, shape, or form looking at an El-Nenny as a critical part of the starting 11. But it's good to know that he'll be back and available for us very soon in case we have another injury crisis in the midfield. But Martinelli, of course, who didn't feature against PSV, stayed behind because he was a little bit ill this week. He has recovered, and we are expecting him to be part of the squad at the weekend. He was asked about his FA charge, was Arteta. He said it, and whether or not it's something positive will come out of it. And he said it has to be. It was a really good process and gave the opportunity for them to explain how they felt, myself, how I felt as well, and the reasons behind it. Okay, the outcome is that I'm not charged, but I think we have to draw a line and look for how we can be more constructive and learn from it and move forwards. That's it. It was good. I felt a lot of sympathy, to be fair, once I explained how sometimes as managers, with the pressure that we're under and how important details are for our job, because I love what I do so much and I want to continue doing it. But the reality last year was that 14 managers lost their jobs, which is incredible. We depend on results. That's it. When the outcome at the end is that important, I'm really emotional about it. Now, no one remembers what happens 3 weeks ago when you lost a game, you lost another one because of a different reason. I think it was a really good process. So, interesting. I think it's a lot of words without saying loads of stuff specifically kind of about a reaction to the charge in itself. He clearly enjoyed the process of it, the sympathy that was shown towards him for the emotion. I think the key for him in this whole scenario is that he feels that his own emotion, the situation that presented itself, wasn't taken into context when looking specifically at what he said. The whole disgrazia thing we talked about a little bit more in depth yesterday, if you want to get my thoughts on that. So, yeah, there you go. He was asked about Kai Havertz's goal and why it wasn't given against Villa. He says the handball, anything that happens in the box has to be clear. Unfortunately, today it's very difficult to understand what it is because there are many things that can happen, but we're in the direction to resolve that, and we're all very eager to resolve that in the best possible way, and I'm positive that it will happen. I mean, it wasn't a goal. By the rules of the game, it's not a goal. It touches Havertz's hand. I know some people like to claim that it touched Cash first, but that wasn't handball. It's also not the rules. And so that goal should not have stood. If Nketiah would have scored, it would have stood. But sadly, it was Havertz, who of course touched it with his hand unintentionally, but still it doesn't matter if it's unintentional. It's still, according to the rules, handball. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what Arteta says in that case. It's just about a rule, I think, change being needed in that sense. He was asked about Rebecca Welch becoming the first female referee when she takes charge of a game on December 23rd. And he said, I think it's great news. I wish Rebecca all the best in this new experience. I think the feedback is going to be really positive. What women's football is on and the diversity that we have now is incredibly positive for the league. And it's something that was needed. I'm glad that Arteta and myself align on that, that it is something that was needed. The key word there, being needed. He was asked a little bit later on about Brighton, and he says about kind of the importance of facing Brighton and Liverpool. Huge, two massive games for us, really. He says, like every week, in the end, we have to play against every team. The schedule is what it is right now, but we have two very big games coming up, and then we have as well on the 28th and the 31st. So this period is vital around the moment in the year, and we will try to win every game. That's for sure. And if Arsenal can come through these games against Brighton, Liverpool, West Ham, and of course Fulham on New Year's Eve as well, Arsenal would have done very well indeed. We're playing four teams that have done very good things so far this season, are all involved in plenty of opportunities to hurt big sides. And if Arsenal come through this period unscathed, maybe dropping a point or two here or there, then maybe we'll do very, very well to look at where we are in the table come the new year, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Scrolling down, he was asked a little bit about the comments, if he would make them again after the Newcastle game. He says, in life, it's too easy to do that. It was done. I defended my opinion. I expressed my opinion. I say again that I'm fully supportive of how we have to improve the game, and the referees are a big part of that. They know that. The managers as well, players as well. Everyone is involved. We have the duty and responsibility to do that. It's good that we can discuss things in an open and honest way. That's what I tried to do. And he was asked also about the FA saying that he was charged because he's a high-profile manager. He says, we have a huge duty. It's part of our role to conduct ourselves in the best way and represent the game, the league, and our clubs in the best possible way. This is what we try to do every day, and sometimes better and sometimes worse, but it is our intention. Again, that recognises the issue in which there was a decision made to charge him for words which, if made by a lower league manager, would not have faced the same charge, which I find and have talked about yesterday in detail as being rather ridiculous. He was asked about if more ex-players should be involved in officiating. He says, I don't know about the solution. They have to find the solution, and we have to try and support with other ideas that we have put on the table and try to move the game constantly forward. That was the last word from the broadcasted section of the press conference. And I have to say that I've said time after time that I think that the VAR should be third party operated. I think that it should be operated by people separated from the group of referees that we currently have, because that is the best way that we're going to remove that empathy side of things in terms of, making the decision for your mate, as Mike Dean once said, and more so making decisions that are right for the game. And I think that a third party operation of those would make the most sense. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. We're going to go to part two now and your questions right after this. Shout out to Bakary Lasagna in the chat, who has been a member now for 12 months. It is the TGT anniversary of our cat-loving chat box member. So thank you, Bakary Lasagna, for supporting the channel. It is very much appreciated. On the same day as Rule Waters' 19th birthday, as Derek points out as well. It was also Santi Cazorla's birthday, I think, yesterday. I completely missed that. I can't believe one of my favourite players of all time, if not my favourite player of all time, in an Arsenal shirt, missing his birthday. Unforgivable behaviour from myself, so I can only really apologise for that. Matt says, which missed transfer target from the past few years do you most wish that we successfully brought in? Excellent question, because it makes me really have to think hard about the players that we've missed out on. I mean, you think about Mudryk, you think about Caicedo. You also have to think about, if we'd have signed those players, it might have meant that we didn't sign someone else. So signing Caicedo may mean that we didn't get Rice. Signing Mudryk may mean that we didn't get Trossard. Rafinha is another player. Rafinha is probably up there, because I think we could have really done with a right-sided competitor for Saka as someone else to look to bring in as well. Arsenal were linked with Diomande before he moved to Sporting as well when he was at Midtjylland, and missing out on that deal when it was a lot cheaper might be something that we end up regretting somewhat, because it might cost us a significant amount of money to go get him if we do indeed want him in the future. But last few years, Szoboszlai, I guess, obviously comes to mind for very obvious reasons. If you guys know, I was very keen on us signing Szoboszlai, and Maximius, yeah, as I'm saying it, writes it in the chat box. So yeah, there you go. Certainly he was one of those that I was very, very frustrated with. Darren says, I read somewhere that Arsenal want the Salentina attacker Belay Dia. And we're going to offer Patino plus cash. Is there any information on that? I mean, let's have a look at where that information is coming from. I've not seen that personally. Belay Dia, Arsenal. Shall we have a quick look? Arsenal willing to offer Charlie Patino plus cash for Serie A striker Belay Dia, 27-year-old striker. Again, I laugh when I see 27-year-old striker because I just can't see us going after a 27-year-old centre forward. This is according to reports suggest, but where are the reports? Show me the reports. I need to see who's confirmed this. It doesn't seem to be. I'm reading the Team Talk article, and it says Mikel Arteta is keen on signing a new striker, and reports suggest that Arsenal are weighing up a move. But I can't. I'm scanning through the piece, and I can't see any reference to what the source. Oh, here it is. According to Sport del Sud, who, when I actually click on the article, it says website status suspicious. So make of that what you will. When I've clicked on the actual website, it just says website status suspicious. So I'm not going to go through with actually reading that article, and that probably tells you, Darren, all you need to know about the link there, maybe. So I'm surprised that's not the case. Let's go to Dave says, Tom, is there really a StreamYard God, or are you just mad at Peak? Why would I be mad at what's Peekahoo done? Was Peekahoo first and StreamYard's mugged them off? I'm assuming that's probably what it is. Justice for Peekahoo. Yes, there you go. I've read your name out. Are you happy now? Yeah, I don't StreamYard mugs it basically because at the moment, until I sort out the microphone situation with my new laptop, I'm back on my old laptop. And what that means is I set up the podcast on my new laptop, email it over to my old laptop where I then jump on and do the show on it. By the time I've jumped on StreamYard on the new laptop, sometimes it cuts off even more so a lot more people in the chat box. So yeah, that's an explanation as to why that happens. But until my new laptop or I get another laptop, I'm going to continue to have to do this on my old one. Let's go to Enigma, who says, what is the purpose of loaning out players like John Jules without giving them a chance? I guess to see if they can build up fitness, get some consistency. You're never going to give everybody a chance. It's as simple as that. And the expectation that you're going to give certain players a chance is wrong because you can't do that. The expectations around Arsenal and the aims for the season are far too high to give opportunities to players that are, not necessarily in the minds of the club. And not only that, but sometimes players like John Jules, being a very good example, has had consistent injury problems, which have meant that the opportunity for Arsenal to sell him just simply have not come forward because clubs aren't interested in trying to sign him or buying him because he hasn't been able to stay fit. And that's been true again this season. So he will probably leave Arsenal on a free eventually and join a club and find somebody in the Football League that will take him. And we wish him all the best when that happens. But it's the point of loaning those players out is to see if they can respond to a loan, is to get some consistent minutes. And then if Arsenal can make some money on them, they hope to do that. Mika Biereth is probably a good example of that. He's doing very well at Motherwell at the moment. Arsenal might be able to make some money off of him. He's never going to get a chance in the Arsenal first team. I'd be very, very surprised if he did. So, yeah, that's why the club send players out on loan, despite the fact that they're never going to give them a chance in the first team. So I hope that answers your question. Derek says, Kai is still sitting on 4 yellow cards, so if he receives one against Brighton, wouldn't he miss the Liverpool game? Yes, he would. He has been on 4 yellow cards for a fair few weeks now, so I think he's very much well aware of the fact that he's on that yellow card threshold. So I think he has to make it through until the new year. And once he does that, he'll be fine. But yeah, he's still very much on the edge of things. Also, slight correction. I did see someone else point out in the chat box. I can't remember who it was who said that the Bissouma red card is his second of the season, which means, of course, that means he'll miss 4 games because of the extra suspension of getting another red, which is quite funny, which means I think he misses the FA Cup game against Burnley in the Premier League. Jurgen says, not a question, but it's not possible to give you 5 stars on Spotify. Only 4 stars or lower is allowed to submit. Is that true? Yeah. Is that what's stopping you? Yeah. Just the semantics of giving a 5-star review. I mean, you could be telling the truth. I have absolutely no idea, but I don't know why on earth there would only be an option to give you 4 stars on Spotify. Peekahoo says, only thing with Osimhen is the price for me. Just because it's a lot of money for a risk, he might not adopt the Premier League. It's a lot of money, and we could invest in 2 times £50 million players to promote from the youth side of things. I guess so. I do think that we're in a situation with Osimhen that the idea of spending 130 million or 112 million pounds seems kind of crazy. It really does seem absolutely ridiculous that we would spend that amount of money on a striker that is a very, very good, but is very different to what we've got. He is, your striker that's a great finisher in the box, but is his wider game, is his all-round game good enough to justify the idea that we could spend that amount of money and that it would be worth the investment rather than going for maybe a younger centre forward that's got a greater level of potential or could reach that level and has a better all-round game? Is that something that we need to look to do? And that's why when people say, well, Tom, who would you sign? I say, ask me in the summer, because I think a lot can change between now and then. If you've not yet dropped a like on the video, by the way, guys, please do. We got over 1,000 likes on yesterday's show, which is amazing. And our weekends are always the most challenging for, of course, us to try and hit that 1,000 like threshold. So if you haven't already dropped a like on the video, please do. I also love the amount of people that left a comment saying that they realized they weren't actually subscribed and have now subscribed. So I wasn't lying. Genuinely, sometimes YouTube just throws up these videos of suggestions and you think you're subbed, but actually it's just on your suggested page because you watch it every day. Make sure you're subbed. It's important. It's important. Hunter says, question, Tom, do you think Odegaard should spend some time on the bench to regain his strength? I don't know if it's about regaining strength. I think Odegaard has, and the only way he's going to regain composure, I guess, and form is by playing. There's no way in the world I'm dropping Odegaard from the team at the moment. He's incredibly important. We improve a lot when he's in the team rather than when he's not. So, no, Hunter, I wouldn't be dropping Odegaard at the moment. Let's go to Wonton Soup says, I saw someone say that West Ham could win Serie A. Yeah, the disrespect to European leagues is real. No, they couldn't win Serie A. They only just won the UEFA Conference League and they had to squeeze past, was it Frankfurt? No, Fiorentina, sorry, in the final. So, yeah, I very much doubt West Ham would be winning Serie A when they have to just squeeze past Fiorentina to win that competition. Jack says, will Arsenal get any offers for Nketiah in January? If we sign someone else, will we sell him? I think there's an argument that I don't think we'll sign a striker until we got like a good offer from Nketiah, to be honest. I can't see us being able to do that. So I think it's more reliant on Nketiah leaving than it is on somebody joining before he's sold. I think also our priorities in the January window are not at centre forward, as I've said. I think in midfield and in defence, they're the areas that you're going to see if they do sign someone, that it's probably going to be in those areas. So, yeah, but we are getting very close to that January window. We're only 15 days away from the end of December, and then January is open. You've probably seen already some players are starting to move. We saw Van der Beek agree a deal with Frankfurt. He will join on loan with an option of around £15 million to sign him on a permanent deal, I think, from Manchester United. So that's one to look out for. But yeah, there are deals that can be done. You can start obviously having conversations with clubs and you can come to agreements with sides and then the deal become finalized and finished in January. But some clubs, of course, just refuse to talk to you up until January because they're focusing on the football. And then when the window opens, that's when you can actually start having those discussions. So it's not as easy as some people see, like those deals happen. We saw Gakpo agree to join Liverpool before January opened. It doesn't always work that way. It's just because one club does it doesn't mean another club can, because some clubs just refuse to have any conversations with clubs until the window actually opens, which is in some ways fair enough. They want to focus on the games leading up and through the Christmas period. But a lot of European teams, of course, go on their breaks over winter and they have their winter break. So that can open up opportunities if the club would want to do that. And there's also some players that are available on those pre-contract agreements in January because their deals are expiring come the end of the season. Pico says, Tom, the eye test on Bakayoko was very good last week. Have you looked into his stats yet? What's his worth? And do you think he is someone that we could suit? I haven't yet. I can do a quick glance now. Look at his profile. Let's have a quick check on how he's repping. It's also very important to point out that when you look at players on FBref from the Eredivisie, they're not being compared against all leagues. They're being compared against leagues, I think, outside of the, if I can tell you right now, it compared against peers from the men's 14 competitions outside of the top 5 leagues. That said, he does represent a very, very, very good profile. It's mostly in the 80s and 90s for the majority of his stats, other than for goals, which I guess is on a key part. 69th percentile for goals, but 90th for shots, 99th for assists, 93rd for expected assisted goals, 90th for non-penalty XG and expected AG, 95th for shot creating actions, 84 for passes completed, 80th for pass completion, 99 for progressive carries, 98 for successful take-ons, 98 for touches in the attacking penalty area, 99th for progressive passes recovered, 84th for blocks and 76th for tackles as well is certainly worth taking note of. But he has 3 goals and 8 assists in 15 Eredivisie games so far this season. PSV have won all 15 of their Eredivisie matches, which is certainly worth taking into account. They've been on great form. So that's certainly worth remembering. But he looks a really interesting player. And if Arsenal want to go and sign some depth and attack and speed and technical ability, it seems Bakayoko would not be a bad option, just from a quick glance and having seen a little bit of him. But it seems like he would be a very good option indeed. Ken says, good morning, Tom. How likely do you think it is for us to win both the Premier League and Champions League this season? To me, it feels like our chances are slightly better in the Champions League. Matches give us more room for free-flowing attacks. I do tend to agree, Ken. I think games are a lot more open in the Champions League, which does suit our style a lot more. And I think, obviously, you've got to win less games to win the Champions League. So, yes, obviously, the peril of losing a game is much higher. But with two-legged affairs, it gives you that extra chance. I'm really excited to see who we draw in the last 16. Shall we have a quick check on when is the last 16 Champions League draw? It will take place on Monday, the 18th of December at 3 o'clock local time. So was that 2 p.m. UK time? Very exciting. Monday, 3 o'clock, doing the draw for the Champions League. That's going to be very, very interesting indeed. Elliot says, hey, Tom, it's Elliot from the Lunchtime Fan Debates chat. Season's greetings to you and yours. I'm in London for my cousin's wedding and we'll be at the match against Brighton. Very hopeful to see you there. I will be there. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm going to be in and around London beforehand. I usually get to the ground about a couple of hours before the game as well. So I'll be there before. I'll be around in London afterwards as well. So I hope to see as many of you as possible. Obviously, I'll be in the press box as well. So those that walk past it, as long as you don't shout and scream across it, which I always find very funny when Morgie does. But come on, I'm around my peers. You can't be shouting and screaming across. Everyone's looking like, who is Tom? Why is he so special? Maximia says, you spoke about the lack of diversity in the PGMOL. We have had the first woman referee and the first black referee in 15 years. They heard you, Tom. They did it. Yes, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's fantastic news. And I really sincerely hope that it's successful. The whole point of it is to, in the long term, broaden our view of it's to broaden the quality that we have of referees, because if you offer the opportunity to only a small group of people, the maximum quality you can get is going to be restricted. If you open up the opportunity to a larger number of people, in the long term, you can push the needle of the quality. You know, if you think about it, the Premier League, the quality of the game of football has got better in the Premier League over the last 30, 40, 50 years. A big part of that is, of course, the sports science and the coaching and things like that. But you know what? It's also because we have opened our doors to the world, you know, and that is also really, really important. So, yeah, I think that's fantastic evidence of if you open up to a wider, diverse range of people, you improve the quality overall in the long term. Pablo says, any MLS players that interest you, Tom? I think the obvious one, and I can't say I've been too much across the MLS so far this season, but the obvious one is Thiago Almeida, 22-year-old Argentinian. I don't know if there's any news about whether or not he is selected a club. I think I saw about a week ago there was some quotes to say that he wanted to go to Europe, but Thiago Almeida is probably the one that stands out the most, Pablo, of them all. But I don't think that's going to be any surprise to anyone. He's probably the most talented MLS player that there is amongst the crop of players there. So unsurprising indeed. Just checking if I missed any super chats. No, all good. I clicked back. I clicked the back button. I clicked the wrong button. I was just checking if we had any super chats and then left. Sorry about that. I'm back. I don't know what happened there. Apparently, if you click both buttons on your mouse at the same time, it takes you back. Never done that in a very, very long time. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Sorry for that little interruption. Those on Spotify, that bit will be edited out for you. But I just left the entire stream for no reason. I just had enough by that point. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Really appreciate it. Do drop a like on the video, of course, before you go. And subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Have a fantastic day. And a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the football. Let's hope Man City drop some points. And as always, up the Arsenal.